What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we are diving into my top 12 Dynasty running back rankings. If you haven't already, go check out my video from yesterday. We did my top 12 quarterback rankings, and then the day before that we did my rookie 2023 rankings. So check those videos out if you haven't already, but appreciate you being here. As always, like and subscribe, trying to grow this community, trying to grow our Dynasty knowledge as we approach this offseason. Tons of trades to be happening. And today we're going to be talking about my top 12 running backs. Big thing about running backs that's happening right now, hard to trade for them because you're trading for studs, you're trying to trade for the young guys, and we're a little bit wary of the older guys. So trying to get my top 12 running backs that I feel like have solidified value that you can feel strong about trying to trade for it this offseason. And without further ado, my RB1 is going to be none other than Bijan Robinson. Congrats to any of you that have the 101 in your Superflex rookie drafts and or one quarterback rookie drafts. Bijan Robinson, with his age, with his profile, we are excited. We're excited to see exactly what Bijan Robinson is to become, what team he's supposed to go on. 2022 had 258 rushing yards, 1,500. I said 250 rushing attempts, 1,500 rushing yards, as well as 19 receptions and 20 total touchdowns at the age of 20. The big thing for me about Bijan, he's an elite prospect. Everyone's calling him like Saquon Barkley. That is true. And he is exactly 21 years old, just turned 21. So Bijan Robinson, young, exciting to see. You're looking at him on the beginning of that rookie deal. Excited to see what happens with Bijan coming up, especially in the next few years. So if you have the 101, you got Bijan, and congrats. That is huge. For our 102, we are going to be selecting none other for our RB2 than Breece Hall. And the thing that I would like to harp on with Breece Hall, of course, he did have the injury. Of course, we saw him finally kind of break out. And you might be asking me, well, why are you taking Breece Hall over some of these other options? The thing I like about Breece Hall is same kind of exact thing that we were talking about with Bijan. He is only 21.7 years old, meaning Bijan is still like excessively young. Ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, 5'11", 217, playing with the New York Jets when he was the focal point of the New York Jets offense when he was on the field. And so we're excited. Year two, coming off the ACL, so we got to lower expectations a little bit. We really do. But after seeing the outburst that he had as a rookie, we're putting him over some of these guys that are maybe after him just because of the age, because you're getting the premium of knowing that he's going to be on his rookie deal a little bit longer. That's the most important thing with these running backs. That's what I would like to say. If you're trying to build a dynasty, we want these running backs as young as we can so that when we're playing in our 2 to 3 year window, the running backs are also in that 2 to 3 year window. My 103 or my RB3 is going to be Jonathan Taylor. Now, Jonathan Taylor, of course, another running back coming off of some unfortunate circumstances. Jonathan Taylor gets injured. They fire their coach. Jeff Saturday comes in charge, and a lot is left to be said because Jonathan Taylor was debatably, it was Jonathan Taylor and CMC for the 101 this year. And I was on the CMC bandwagon, and it kind of paid off because we don't predict injuries. And Jonathan Taylor got injured, sadly. But there's still a lot to like about Jonathan Taylor. And if we look exactly kind of what he did last year, we will see a few things. So last year, of course, he was the RB1, averaged 21.9 fantasy points a game. Now, that's not necessarily a legendary running back, but it's very close. And then this year it goes down to 16.9 in the 15 games that he did play. It's hard for me with Jonathan Taylor because there was a lot of things that were wrong, but there are a lot of things to be excited about with Jonathan Taylor. Hopefully they're going to get a new coach. At this point, we don't know if they're going to hire Jeff Saturday. There's a lot to be said about Jim Irsay and what he's doing, but Jonathan Taylor will be a focal point of that offense. And I think only time will tell. Pat McAfee today was talking about the fact that it's looking like Will Levis is going to be a pick, or they're going to be trying to get a veteran. I'm excited to see exactly kind of what that's going to be looking like for the Indianapolis Colts. But as always, we can't really project that. We just know that Jonathan Taylor is a stud. And with him about to turn, he's only 23. We're just banking on the prospect profile. At my RB4, we're going to go with a little bit older of an option. And now you might say, if we're going an older option, who are you going with, Caleb? No, it is not going to be a CMC. It's going to be Saquon Barkley. Now, Saquon Barkley kind of broke out in the way that we wanted him to this year after last year coming back from the ACL. Of course, he is just turned 26 years old. But Saquon Barkley averaged 17.8 fantasy points per game, putting him as the RB5 this last season, 295 rushing attempts, 1,300 yards, 57 receptions for 338 yards. So he wasn't necessarily the legendary running back that we were hoping he was going to be, like when he came out his rookie season with the Giants before in year 2 tearing that ACL. So we are going into year 5. There are some big things that need to be on the horizon. Are the Giants going to extend him? Are the Giants going to extend Daniel Jones? And where does he end up playing? And what does the team end up looking like? I am excited. Saquon Barkley, I'm personally hoping that he leaves the Giants. Of course, the Giants have started drafting a lot of linemen. So they did secure the tackles this last year, but Daniel Jones just takes too many of those goal line carries. And as a Saquon owner in a lot of leagues where I bought him low right after the ACL tear, I was not feeling it, even though he did help lead me to a lot of championships this year. So Saquon Barkley is my RB4, my RB5, and we are not going to an old player. We're going back young. We are going to be going with Kenneth Walker III. Now, Kenneth Walker, a lot of people are going to say, why are you taking Kenneth Walker over some of these other guys? He doesn't necessarily have the receiving upside. I would agree with you. 13.5 fantasy points per game, 27 receptions, 165 yards, 228 rushing attempts for 1,000 yards, and 15 games played. The way that Pete Carroll likes to use his running backs is he likes to find a guy and play with him. Just run him to the ground. We saw what happened with Chris Carson when Chris Carson was in. We saw what Rashad Penny. Love me some Rashad Penny. Sad that it didn't work out for him, but Kenneth Walker is the guy. I doubt they take anyone high in this draft because, of course, they drafted him in the second round. So this next year is going to be all Kenneth Walker. So excited to see the Kenneth Walker train show. He, honestly, reminds me a lot of Todd Gurley. I know a lot of people are going to say that's crazy, but I think he's definitely going to take that year 2 jump. And when you're getting him as your dynasty RB5, knowing his age, knowing his production profile, we're excited. We're excited. Only 22 years old still, so we're still looking at about 2 years still left on that age apex before we start to feel a little bit worried. So Kenneth Walker, great as your RB5. My RB6, and we are going to continue on this young trend, is going to be Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne, of course, is a little bit older than what you may think. I think a lot of people think Travis Etienne, man, I can't find him. This is terrible. They think, first year off, might still be, 22, 23. Travis Etienne is about to turn 24 years old. So there is that concern that Travis Etienne is getting up there. And when I say up there, of course, these guys are young guys, but I prefer my running backs to be 25 years or younger. 24 years old. So you're looking at another year before we're potentially getting into a little bit of a sell category. But of course, ran a 4.5 40-yard dash, has the built, played 17 games this last year, 220 rushing attempts for 5 total touchdowns, averaging 12.1 fantasy points per game. Now, a lot of people are mad at Travis Etienne because he lost out a lot of people on their fantasy football championships by kind of having a dud in week 15 or week 16. And I hear you on all that. The thing that makes me excited about Travis Etienne is just the fact that the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to get so much better here in this offseason. So we know that they have good draft capital. They potentially might draft another receiver, but they don't really need to because they have Christian Kirk and they have Calvin Ridley. So we could potentially be looking at them addressing a spot on the offensive line. Evan Ingram looked really good, or they're going to shore up the defense. So what does that mean? There's going to be a lot more positive game scripts for Travis Etienne heading into this next year, as well as the fact of the matter is he's just getting more healthy. He got a full year of the NFL under his belt, and we always know those year 2 running backs, when they come and if they are healthy, they really do perform. So Travis Etienne is my RB6. My RB7 is going to be CMC. Now, a lot of people are going to say, Caleb, CMC's too low. CMC's too low. Okay. I know the 49ers, 76ers. I know the 49ers gave a ton of draft capital to get CMC. But CMC is also 26.6 years old. So he's going to be 27 years old by the time the season starts. Now, he is one of those types of backs where he is in that LaDainian Tomlinson, Marshall Faulk mold, where he is both a running back, but also a receiver. So we could also see his usage on the ground, but his receiving upside continue to remain high. He did average 21 fantasy points per game, which put him as the RB2, which will we ever see the 2019 and 2018 McCaffrey comeback. I don't know, where he's averaging over 24 fantasy points a game. I really don't know, but I think if someone can do it, it's Kyle Shanahan, even with CMC getting older. I just think I'm giving him the injury, not the injury discount, but the age discount here with CMC, putting him as my RB7. In startups, it's a little bit hard when you're taking CMC. You're able to get him like usually in the third. But the moment you take CMC, you're on almost automatically competing. So if you are a competing team, try to go buy low on CMC. Like if I honestly had Travis Etienne or Kenneth Walker and I was looking to flip him for CMC because I'm going for the chip this year, like do that. I wouldn't hate you. These rankings are more just assuming that you're a middling tier team trying to build as much value as you can going into the future. My RB8 is going to be Jahmr Gibbs. Jahmr Gibbs, we don't know where he's ending up. And if you watched my rookie draft video, you would have seen me talk a little bit about how these rookie running backs, there's a lot that we still need to determine with their landing spot, with how they perform at the combine, all sorts of things. But I will say this. I do think Jahmr Gibbs has the upside to be a top 10 running back. And actually, I think if he gets drafted in the first round, then he will instantly be propelled into the top 10 dynasty running back conversation. Because like I said, like right when we get to about this point, there's all the young guys and we've added some studs and it kind of tapers off. There's a lot of unknowns. And Jahmr Gibbs, even though he is an unknown, I think he'll instantly get propelled to the 108, the RB8, the RB9 territory. Now you have to consider with yourself, if we're already getting to this territory with Jahmr Gibbs, is he a sell? I would argue potentially, because if you can potentially trade Jahmr Gibbs and get Jahmr Gibbs in a piece and move up and get Travis Etienne, someone that's a little bit more proven, or potentially trade Jahmr Gibbs and 2 seconds and get Jonathan Taylor. Like those are deals that I think you might potentially be able to explore as we get closer to the NFL draft, as the hype season builds. Jahmr Gibbs, great prospect out of Alabama, and we'll see what happens in the NFL draft. But he is my RB8. My RB9 is going to be Javonte WIlliams, the man coming off of the ACL. What are we excited about for Javonte WIlliams? Well, we were excited to see him with the Denver Broncos. We were excited to see him play with Russell, Cook, and Wilson. But that all got destroyed with the ACL tear. Only played 4 games, averaged 10.5 fantasy points per game, and that's even taking into account his 1 game where he got injured. Sean Payton finally takes over the reins. The offense was abysmal, even when Javonte was out there for the first 4 games. So we are excited to see what Sean Payton can do with Javonte WIlliams. The last time we saw Sean Payton coach, we were seeing Alvin Kamara putting up ungodly numbers with the Saints. The one thing I will mention, though, is even though he was putting up ungodly numbers, it was partially because Drew Brees' arm could not throw the ball far downfield. So therefore, Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara were able to cook. So those are all things to consider. But excited to see what Javonte WIlliams does, especially with his age being only 23 years old. Still a lot of time here for Javonte WIlliams to regain his value. Someone that I'm trying to buy low on in a lot of leagues, even though I do know year 1 after an ACL is typically where they're at their lowest value. So honestly, if I were looking to buy, I'd either be looking to buy pretty low now, but also understand it's probably we're still on the decline. Once you see him play and he has a few bad games, like people are going to get a little worried. They're going to sell him off. Same thing happened with Saquon. And we saw how that came back. So year 2 is where we want him. And he'll be 24 years old at that time. And that's what I'm shooting for Javonte WIlliams, especially if you're a rebuilding team. My RB10 is going to be Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is kind of in a league of his own when we come to evaluating and our process as a dynasty community. The main thing that I will say about Austin Eckler is he's going to be turning 28 years old. And he's undrafted, 5'9", but he's just putting up ridiculous numbers. 21 fantasy points per game in 2021, and then put up another 21 fantasy points per game this season. Now, he had 2 less touchdowns this year, but he played 17 games. And really his rushing yards are remaining around 900, whereas his receptions, he was at 107 this year. And a lot of that reception work had to do with the fact that Mike Williams and Keenan Allen missed a ton of time. But we're pumped. We are pumped for what Austin Eckler is going to be providing for our fantasy teams. If you're competing, Austin Eckler is actually cheaper than Christian McCaffrey. And to be completely fair, you're getting about the same production. So if you want to go take a risk, go try trading for Austin Eckler. Now, the Austin Eckler owner is probably competing, but if you can find a league mate in your league who's maybe bordering on the line of competing and you can maybe flip one of these guys coming up in an extra pick or something to get Austin Eckler to compete, that would be a move that I might potentially be trying to make. But like we said, Austin Eckler is getting up into that 28-year-old territory where it's kind of the dead zone running backs. Like, we do love us some Derrick Henry too at cost, but Austin Eckler is right now, I think, going anywhere in, like, I've seen him go from like in the 6th round of a startup. I've seen him go in the 5th. Just kind of still to be determined with Austin Eckler. I think as a community, we're still trying to figure out where exactly his value lies. My RB11 is going to be Josh Jacobs. My man put up a crazy year and regained a lot of his fantasy value. If you drafted Josh Jacobs in your underdog leagues or in your redraft leagues, or you had him on your dynasty team and you bought him low because everyone was trading him away thinking Zamir White was about to take over, good for you. You probably won a lot of money. Turned 25 years old this year, but averaged 19.3 fantasy points and was the RB3 on a points per game basis. What does this mean going forward? Well, we know Derek Carr is no longer there. There's rumors of better quarterbacks coming in. Even if they get a rookie, they're going to probably be handing the ball off a lot. They get a better quarterback, more efficient offense, more red zone touches for Josh Jacobs. We're assuming he gets resigned. I think the best thing for Josh Jacobs would be to go back to the good and the proud, the Raiders. But if that doesn't happen, I don't know. I think this might tank if he goes somewhere else, even if he goes to a better team, just a little bit few better options, I think, to throw to. But I like him on the Raiders. So excited to see where Josh Jacobs hopefully resigns to and who they sign as a quarterback. My RB12 is going to be Najee Harris. My final RB1, Najee Harris. There's a lot to be desired from Najee Harris when we look at how he performed this season and where are ways that he can improve. Najee Harris is a lot older. When he came into the league, he was, already 23 and a half. So last year he was 24. And so he'll be 25 when the season starts. And so I think a lot of people always assume, Najee Harris is like young, and like he's not. Like, he's as old as Jonathan Taylor, even though he's played one less year. And we still need to know. The verdict's still out on Kenny Pickett and how efficient this offense is going to be. The fact of the matter is he went from averaging his rookie season 17.7 fantasy points per game to then last season averaging only 13.2. And I think we really need to think as a community about how we're going to be viewing this Pittsburgh Steelers offense with Kenny Pickett at the helm. And I imagine they probably draft another receiver. They probably address the offensive line. I think the offensive line was a major concern for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to be fair, a lot of critics are going to say that Ben Roethlisberger dumped the ball down to Najee Harris, while Kenny Pickett didn't. Where in 2021, he had 74 receptions. And this year, even though he played 17 games both years, he only had 41 receptions. Same amount of touchdowns, and he had about 120 less yards this year. Now, I would attribute that probably to the fact that Kenny Pickett does not check the ball down, which is fine. But hopefully if the offense can improve its efficiency, then all of a sudden the value of Najee Harris is going up. Now, Najee Harris, if you told me right now you're borderline contending team and you can trade a mid, let's call it like a late 109 in a Superflex league for Najee Harris, that'd be something I would be trying to explore. Because I do think Najee Harris is better than some of these other running backs. And I think once we get to this draft season, we get people hyped up with these late second, early third round running backs. And we know the pedigree that Najee Harris had as a first round pick. Najee Harris still has a solid 2 more years left playing at a high level with his NFL contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that'd be a trade that I'd be trying to do. But as always, guys, appreciate you guys tuning in, going through my dynasty rankings. No, everyone is trying to trade, trying to do stuff. So hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you disagree with. We're going to be putting out about a video a day. Talking tomorrow about whether the 101 for Bijan Robinson, is Bijan Robinson already a sell? So stop in tomorrow and we'll talk about that. Talk to you guys soon.